It's like my kids who I coach in wrestling. You're gonna get poked in the eye. There's gonna be things that happen to you inside on the mat. You can't just drop to the ground and turn around and expect the ref to know what's going on in your head and that he's seeing everything. It's just a bad habit, and bad things happen when you do that. And that's kind of what he got in the habit of. Just anytime his eyeball got touched to the hole, it's like he dropped to the ground and was like, crying, and he needed time and all this stuff. And obviously, I don't want to poke him in the eye, but I just also think, like, what are we turning this into? Like MMA is a tough sport. Get the reps, attention. Let them know you got poked in the eye. But dropping it and then trying to get all this time, and then you go back to the replay, and it's like, you even really get poked in the eye. I don't know. I think it's a bad precedent too.
The most privileged fighter in the UFC is the eye poker. What's going on with Weidman? Why is he acting this way about that fight? Weidman is upset that people don't want him to get away with cheating, and he's casting unreasonable doubt on Bruno Silva for the way that he was acting after getting eye poked. He's telling Bruno Silva, "Suck it up, kid, take it like a man. I poked you in the eye, you got two of them. Oh wait, I poked both of your eyes?" Weidman's even questioning the sport, saying, "What's going on with MMA? Why are these guys acting so soft? What's happening to our sport where we jab our fingers into each other's eyes?" As if that was always allowed in the sport. He got away with it 4 times in his fight, and they gave him the win. He's actually blaming Bruno Silva for reacting the way he did after getting his eye sockets finger banged by every finger on Chris Weidman's hands. Oh, my apologies, Mr. All-American. You just blinded me, sir. Remember, this is the same guy who was throwing a fit because he couldn't get away with trying to be a grounded opponent when Gegard was kneeing him to the head. It's quite a shame, honestly, because Chris Weidman came back after that injury and everybody wanted to see him succeed. Right? Everybody wanted to see him win. Everybody wanted to see him come back and perform well, and he did perform much better than we expected. But the way he's handling this whole thing, it just hurts his fan base. It's like him and Petty Pimbler in a race. Who's going to crumble their fan base faster? It's crazy the way he's acting with this whole thing. I mean, Weidman should just be like, "I messed up. I poked him in the eye. I didn't mean to do it. I was winning the fight. I didn't try to poke him. I apologize to Bruno Silva." If he just said that, this will be blown over. It will still be an issue with the whole eye poke, but not as much of a problem with Weidman. And the damage was so bad to Bruno Silva that he just came out and said that he lost 30% of his vision in one of his eyes. This is what Bruno had to say about his eyes. So he goes, quote, "Weidman poked both my eyes, and the exam showed that I lost 30% of my vision in one of the eyes. But the doctor doesn't think it's permanent. He thinks it will come back fast. I'll have to go back there next week for another test." The referee was bizarre in the fight. He effed up, and then effed up on top of that. The least they could do is a no contest. No way, he put his finger inside of my eye. We think it's hard for Chris Weidman to accept a rematch, but the no contest would be fair. Let's see what the UFC does. I just want things to be done the right way, the fair way. I went there and fought, and you didn't see any malice from my part, unquote. Technically, he also did poke Weidman in the eye as well, but it wasn't the way Weidman did it to him. The way Weidman was poking him, it seemed like it was on purpose. I mean, he had his fingers extended the whole time, and the ref constantly was telling him to stop that. And he kept doing it. At a certain point, unless Weidman's completely unaware of what's happening, he doesn't hear the ref or something like that. I mean, he kept his fingers extended the whole time and pawed at his eyes multiple times throughout that fight. And these guys are telling Bruno Silva that he's overreacting. Why are you falling on the ground after I just jabbed your eye in? Another member of the Eye Poke Brotherhood, Captain Daniel Cormier, chimed in to back up his comrade, Major Weidman. The eye collectors assemble. They're just missing their commander, John Jones. He's celebrating this eye-poking victory. Remember that DC was the one that knocked out Stipe after jabbing his fingers into his eyes. Both of these guys have something in common. This is what Daniel Cormier had to say about it. Quote, "There's a rule in place that if you go past a certain point in the fight, it's scored. If there's an illegal blow, they score the fight, and if you score that fight, Chris Weidman wins. So I think by them making a decision, it saves the fight, staying a win for Chris Weidman because he really did deserve the victory because he fought so well." He made one point that I thought was very important. He said, "I get it, but Bruno Silva has to understand you can't just fall to the ground and turn away from the fight because I'm going to jump on you and finish it." That's a wild thing to say, man. After I foul you and cheat in the fight, I'm going to finish you off and claim that victory? Honestly, I've liked Weidman for a long time, but hearing him say something like that, it really tells you the kind of character he is in the fight game. He may have acted on instinct, he may have not known, but Weidman said that he did it on purpose, right? I get it, Bruno probably should try to avoid falling on the ground, but the guy got poked in the eye all fight. And 2 of them happen in sequence with each other in a combination. That is unheard of. We don't see that happen in the sport. I don't fault him at all for falling on the ground like that. He must have been in really bad pain. And those are not slight, small eye pokes. Even a little bit of an eye poke can cause major damage to the eye. It's a very weak part of the body. I don't know why these guys are acting like Bruno Silva's out of line and he's just playing it up. DC continues, quote, Chris Weidman did what his instincts told him, and that was going to finish Bruno Silva when Bruno reacted the way that he did from the eye poke. I'm only saying this because to me, it felt like a soccer player when they get fouled and they're rolling around on the ground when the guy barely touches them. Wait, what? Wait, he barely touches him. That's not a fair comparison at all. Is DC saying that what happened to Silva's eyes was like football players flopping from barely getting touched? How is he making that comparison when we know how bad eye pokes are? Does he not know the damage he did to Stipe? Does he not know the severity of eye pokes? I mean, he got poked in the eye quite a bit from Stipe too. There have been fights that got stopped because of eye pokes. There's fighters who got their retina detached from eye pokes. Even a single eye poke can cause that kind of damage. Bruno Silva was a survivor of an eye-poking onslaught. This guy's trying to dodge bombardment of eye pokes. And thankfully, he didn't get a detached retina or anything like that. Bruno got hit by 4, man. That's super disrespectful to say that Bruno Silva is acting like one of the flopping football players. That's crazy. We all know who Bruno Silva is. You know, Bruno Silva went toe-to-toe with Alex Pereira. I don't think he's scared of anybody. I don't think he would over-exaggerate any kind of pain in a fight. Bruno Silva got eye poked, but I think he understood where he was in the fight. He was getting beat. He was losing. He fell to the ground. He reacted in the way he was reacting, hoping, wait, stop, poke to the eye, no contest. Instead, Weidman went and finished him, unquote. Yeah, because the ref should have done his job. The ref should have saw the eye poke, should have done something in the beginning when Weidman was pointing his fingers directly at Silva's eyes the whole fight. Instead of telling Weidman, hey, stop doing that. Hey, stop doing that. Get in there and make him stop. That's what the ref is for. The fighter's not going to just stop because you're telling him, right? Especially in this sport lately, you can obviously get away with cheating in a fight. It's happened so many times, especially for eye pokes. Fighters rarely get a point deduction from eye pokes. And this goes to further prove fighters can just do it. And my advice for all the fighters is poke everybody in the eye at least one time because you're not going to get a point deducted for it. Bruno Silva's eyes got destroyed out there and nothing happened. They gave Weidman the win. In DC here talking about like Bruno Silva is acting like a soccer player, over-exaggerating this whole thing. It's insane. We know that he lost 30% of his eyesight, at least temporarily. Hopefully it's not permanent. That's a very big deal, man. And when he's telling the ref to stop and call the fight a no contest, he's absolutely correct. The fight should have been either a no contest, in my opinion, should have been a DQ. You poke someone in the eye 4 times, that's a disqualification in my book. Doesn't matter if you won the first 2 rounds. Eye poking privilege is crazy in this sport. Eye pokers literally have an advantage in the sport because of the way the refs deal with it. And good on Bruno Silva trying to overturn this fight, but I guarantee they don't do it. It almost never happens. I actually don't remember a single time the commission has overturned a fight after when one of the fighters appealed it. This is a fight that should definitely be a disqualification. If not, it sets a precedent that fighters can just get away with eye pokes. It's such a privilege in the sport to be an eye poker. Sign up with Chris Weidman and Daniel Cormier's team, right? The eye collectors. They're a bit ahead of the game. You know, John Jones is the leader of that team. Weidman and Daniel Cormier joined it, and all you see is success when they do it. Fighters should probably try to poke each other in the eye at least one time in each fight. They're going to have a massive advantage going forward. Unless you're fighting someone like Anthony Johnson, who will always happen to knock his opponent out after getting poked in the eye. It's such a bizarre thing, you know, and I even saw Ariel Helwani congratulating and celebrating the win for Chris Weidman. It's like, we have to be honest, Weidman did look good out there. You know, better than we expected him coming off that big injury. But to celebrate the way they are, without mentioning the blatant problem with the sport and eye pokes, is quite something. For a long time, I never thought Weidman would act this way after cheating in a fight. But then when you look back in hindsight and the way he handled the whole Gegard situation, it's not as surprising anymore, you know? But leave the comments below. What do you guys think about all of this? Are you team eye poke destruction? Or should we really fix this eye poking issue and side with Bruno Silva and overturning this whole thing? If he successfully overturns this, that's going to be really good for the sport.